Quite a turnout. Hi,
Hello.
Ben. Hi, Jason.
Hello. So I missed this last month because we were in a communications blackout. So I don't know if anything actually happened last month. I didn't actually check to see if there was recording.
What
Didn't
was
do
the
my due
communications
diligence.
blackout?
Somebody cut a trunk line, so we didn't
Oh,
have internet and we didn't have cell service. It's kind of scary. Like it was it's that easy to just cut off this portion of the state. Um, yeah.
well, I got nothing today.
I have stuff I can talk about if nobody else has stuff, questions and stuff. I was just seeing if there was a recording from last month. Yeah, it looks like you and Lucas and Brendan were here. So, what did you guys talk about last month? You remember?
Damned if I know.
Okay, I just wondered.
I'd
It
have
looks
to
like
watch the recording to answer that.
there's some API stuff um in the chat from it. Mm.
That could be.
Okay, well, anyways, we'll start this one. This is the Koha-US Web Dev SIG for June 2025. George already said he didn't really have anything. Does anybody else have questions or stuff you want to talk about? If not, I can play with stuff.
I'm relatively new, so I'm just want to observe. If anybody wants to talk about notices, that's my thing in the last month.
That's what I've been fighting with today. So we
Yeah,
can talk about notices for sure.
I've been trying to crack the pre-due notice, and it makes no sense to me. So I was actually hoping Lucas might be here to answer my question, but um,
He may
yeah,
show up still.
cross our fingers. But that can wait.
Okay. My problem today was so we had the little point upgrade last night, and I had some really janky code in our issue slips that generated how much a patron owed, like how much they had outstanding, um, so that it printed out on the slip. And that broke. So all my checkout slips broke. So I fixed that. I found some code to make that work in a different way. And then I realized that my issue slips aren't using template toolkit entirely, so I've been playing with converting that over. So it's kind of a mess, but I can show you where I'm at right now.
I, if you want, I have a template toolkit issue slip that we use. It doesn't have anything about what you owe. It does have the you saved ... but it goes, the issue slip goes items checked out today, other items checked out, items renewed today, and then what you saved using the library. Um, but it's all template toolkit.
I would love to see that, yes.
Let me
Because I was
see.
looking at the wiki and didn't find anything specific to what I need. I see George put the link in there. Go ahead, George.
I put a link into the wiki, so if you've got custom slips, there is a place in the wiki to upload those to share those with other people.
Yeah, part of the reason, part of the issue with that is I have a number of. So one of the things it does is it says whether the item is renewable or not. And so we
Ah,
have non-renewable item types, but they're just hard coded in.
right.
And so it'll say this item's on hold and may not be able to be renewed. This item's already hit 2 renewals, which isn't relevant for the issue. Well, maybe it's relevant for the issue slip. And then the item types. And since that's hard coded, I don't know how, I mean, some of
I
it's applicable, but yeah.
I understand.
Let me find the current version here.
I am always happy when anybody talks about notices and slips, though, to point out that there is a wiki to remind everybody
Yeah,
there is a wiki and that the notices and slips library is one of the least populated parts of the wiki for those individual libraries.
so I can show where I'm at with mine because I've just been working on it today. Where did my taskbar go? Oh, there's a snipping tool up there.
Jason, is that still for pre-due or is that for a different one?
No, I'm working on the issue slip. So
Oh,
the
okay.
one that you can print out to show checkouts. So I've got, this is the mess that I've created so far. So the green is what I pulled off the wiki. The blue is what I'm moving towards. So that's using template toolkit to pull in that information. And then the black is the old that I'm replicating. So this part is the part that I had to change. I think I might still have my bring that over. So put it in there twice, but this is the chunk of code I was using before to pull in the balance information, which I don't know where I got that from. I'm sure I didn't think of it myself. But that's what broke in the with the minor patch last night. So I replaced that chunk with find it in here. This one. So it's setting the balance from the borrower's account. If it's more than nothing, then it adds that section right here. And I found that on a bug somewhere, how to do that. And then looping through the overdues and checkouts is what I was working on right before this meeting so that I could like emphasize things that are overdue, because that's how we did it before down here. So I'm almost there. And then the savings thing, that's a mess. So my savings stuff is pulling from jQuery, like storage cookies and stuff, because it does 3 different things. So there's a whole nother script down here, but I would like to clean that up and like look at your code
Yeah,
then to see if I can make it better.
I'll drop it. I'm not sure whether my GitHub is up to date. That's one of my tasks this week, so I'm just going to drop it in. But I just use replacement price. I'm just like
Okay.
replacement price added up. This is how much you saved. It's
Yeah. So I'm doing that for current checkouts because those are on the slip and I can look at that. But it's using JavaScript to store this information and this information. So those are in cookies.
yeah. Wonder. Oh, this exceeds the. Okay. Let me. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to. Let me just check whether we can talk about other things, but I can check whether my GitHub is up to date or not. But pre-do, I heard somebody mention pre-do, and that's been what I've been trying to crack this week, and it's working, but I don't know why it's working, and that's a rough place to be.
And I don't think I've done anything with that one. I'm gonna
Yeah.
look. Yeah, my pre-do stuff is just the old default syntax, it looks like.
So, well, here I will show what I figured out with pre-do. Slips. So when I tried just doing straight template toolkit, just cycling through each item in checkouts, it didn't work. I had to use the set checkout and the set biblio to draw the information I needed from the information dump it gives you. But I don't know why I had to do that or what that is accomplishing. Let me show you here. I actually might show 2 side by side. So how do I share my screen? Yeah. So if we look here, so this works, but I have to do for each item in items. So I assume that the items section is what's pulling over to my account, just looking at this on the Bywater knowledge base. And then I have to do set checkout to item.checkout and set biblio to item.biblio, and then I can pull the information I need from, like, here's this item can't be renewed section. This is if the biblio record has holds on it, and then this does use the checkout chunk to check how many renewals it has. But if I go over to the do digest, get you out of my way here. If I go over to the do digest, I don't have to do any of that setting the parameters. I can just use the checkouts parameter. And I don't know why that is the case. So that's what I've been fighting with for the past week. And I'm just really curious how Koha is collecting that information and why it's displaying it inconsistently. I will shop. How do I stop sharing my screen now? Yeah.
There should be floating control somewhere.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
it.
that sounds like a Lucas question because I don't know
Yeah.
how that all works. Do you know, George?
I'm looking at mine and I've got the pre-due. I've still got mine set to Hungry Alligator syntax. I'm looking at pre-due digest to see if I modified it yet, and it looks like it's also just doing Hungry Alligators items.content. So that's one I've never updated. So I'm not any help on this one.
Yeah.
One thing I have done for our staff is for our Koha is there's pre-due and pre-due digest. I've got jQuery running on our patron the table where you set those, that if pre-due is checked, pre-due digest is always checked.
Mm.
Because the idea of not digesting that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So I've just got it set so that I won't, and that way too, the advantage of that is I only have to worry about one template. I don't have to worry about the pre-due template because we're not effectively not using it. So
Right. I was going to, for the do digest, it's pretty simple to do because I can just say check today's date and compare the due dates, and if they match, print them. But of course, with pre-due, you can't do that because that's a configurable amount. And so I ran a report to see how many people were getting the pre-due digest, the pre-due or pre-due digest at a time other than 3 days. And it was like 150 people. I was really surprised that anybody had ever bothered to change that.
what I'm looking for right now is to see if Koha 2505 has updated templates for pre-due and pre-due digest. I haven't, I'm the one that updates that stuff on the wiki, and I just realized that I haven't posted the updated messages for 2505 on the wiki. So I'm actually opening a sandbox right now to see if there is a new template for pre-due or pre-due digest, because I know that the community has been working on converting those default messages from template toolkit into template toolkit. So I'm going to check there and see. I'm going to open a sandbox and see if I can pull out the default template that's on Koha right now. So that might give us some insight too.
I've got my dev box up. So this is the do digest. So it does look like it's got doing the for each checkout and checkouts. So they've converted that one. And then pre-due. Also just doing for each checkout and checkouts. So it's the same thing. So that doesn't really tell us much, does it? As to, I mean, it doesn't make sense why you have to do the extra step on your notices to get it to work. You're muted, sorry.
So I know that the do digest and pre-do digest aren't pulling from the API. The script is actually sending them like a chunk of data that isn't the same as the other template toolkit uses. It's weird to me that do digest and pre-do digest behave differently. And they behave differently than the other notices. Like they don't seem to match up. But I think the reason they don't match up is because the script is probably older and the way the script is delivering data is probably older.
That's totally got to be the reason. You know, those are old scripts that were designed to work with that hungry alligator syntax.
Right.
And all they've done so far is to convert how it's getting the data. I mean, because it used to be
Right.
that items.info or whatever it was,
Right.
and it would bring back a set of data that the script had prefetched.
Mhm.
And so probably the script is trying to do something that it wasn't built to do.
Right. And it does have the data, like it has um the JSON data. It's just that it doesn't match what the dumper told me was there. And that's where I'm confused. And maybe there is a good explanation, but it certainly has something to do with that script. But I think you're right, it's just old. I did put my issue slip in the chat. That the script on GitHub is slightly out of date because you have to use renewals underscore count now. You can't just use checkout.renewals. It has to be checkout.renewals underscore count. And I plan to update that this week. But if that's useful, that's there.
Definitely. Thank you.
And it's actually commented, so you should be able to follow it for once.
Was there other stuff people have been playing with, doing, breaking, have questions about?
I've been training our new person, so I haven't done anything but train the last 2 weeks now. I'm really exhausted from it.
I was playing with the API stuff in VS Code because that came up at some other meeting, and I remember somebody saying that I should like document that. So this is going to be my documentation of how you do that if you want to like look at your APIs, like do an API call. So I had that pulled up too. So it's like pretty simple in VS Code. You just have to install the REST client, and then you can just put in this little bit of code. So this is your URL that's pointing at my dev box right now, so I don't like expose anything. And then all the documentation is on the api.koha-community.org site. So this information, like what you would actually put in to query something. So right now I'm looking at the public side of things, so I don't have to be authenticated to do that. And then I was pulling specifically the biblio information for biblio number 1. This changes the format of the output. So since the bib data is in mark XML, that's what I put there. It's not going to do anything because I already have it open over here, but we'll close that to. So if I hit the send request up here, then it went out, pinged my server, and brought back the mark XML for that specific number 1 record. So I found like just being able to look at this useful for when I was writing some jQuery for like leveraging the API to bring in series information into our search results, so I could see like what was going on in the structure of it. You can also do authenticated requests, which is more complicated. So that's this one where you have to assign a client ID and a client secret, and then you go out and get your authentication token. And then with that, I can go in and look at like stuff from the staff side. So this request is looking at the specifically patron number 45 and listing their checkouts. So when I send that in, then I get a list of their checkouts. And again, all that's on api.koha-community.org. If you're using authenticated stuff, it tells you which permissions need to be set on that specific account you gave access. And to set the access up, you have to enable a few system preferences. So under web services, you have to have basic authentication on, and then the rest public API if you're doing public stuff. And then on the account, I think I put it on that same account. Not sure. Doesn't matter. So on the patron account, so like if you were trying to give a vendor API access, once those preferences are on, you get the option to assign API keys. So that's in the More menu. And then you can generate the client secret pair. And that's what I put up here. But that's giving someone access to your database. So be careful with that. Again, this is my dev box, so there's no secure patron information. And also, if you don't give this patron account permissions, so like this one doesn't have any permissions set, even though they have an API key and a secret, they're still not going to be able to access through here. So you can limit what a vendor might have access to on the backside of your Koha via the API through permissions.
What's your use case for that?
I don't have a use case for this yet. I just got curious and was starting to poke at it. Like, I did want to try and do a better job of updating our bib data with EBSCO for novelists. So I was thinking maybe I could use the API rather than generating a report and sending it to them. But that's all public, so they don't really need back end access for that. The other thought was like coming up with a simple, like a super simple mobile interface for the patron, because we don't have Aspen. So and I get requests for apps all the time. So potentially using the API to give them like an app experience on their phone. Again, blue skies, nothing fully developed there.
Have you ever tried a put request?
No, but I'm pretty sure you can. Like all that stuff's in there in the documentation. You can do puts and posts and all that stuff. So if I wanted to make a button that let the patron renew their items, I should be able to do that.
Okay. Because I could think of some situations where we have like volunteers or something that need to perform some simple task. And I don't really want to train them on it.
Yeah, you could definitely use it like internal to Koha too, where you like build a
Yeah.
page that has certain stuff that they can do, and then
Right.
hit the API on that page with it.
Hmm.
I think that's all I got this month. I'm also working on point of sale, setting that up.
We're
That's not
doing
really jQuery-y.
we're doing that as well.
I discovered that when you're setting it up in a consortium, you have to give every single branch a cash register. And then I realized if I want them all to have different items for sale, I'm gonna have to set up different credits for each one of them. So I have a lot of data collection to do before I can enable it.
Yeah, same boat. I have a lot fewer branches, of course, but it was exactly that. Okay, what are you guys selling? Set the buttons.
I look forward to learning based on your failures in this area, Jason. So whatever you succeed at, whatever you fail
That's
at, I'll
that's
be
too
right
bad because
behind
there
you.
won't be any failures at all. So
I'll hope for an update at that at the KLA conference. So
sure, I'll put it on the agenda.
Failures. Let's call the session failures.
To engineer is human. Who wrote that book? Henry Petrosky. Great book about how engineers learn from failure.
I'm a big believer in failing forward. That's how I live my life. Okay, well,
I have a
I mean that.
question.
Yes, please ask.
So this is a request from staff there. I don't know how this would be set up, so I was wondering if you could like point me out in the right direction if you have any resources for me. But when patrons, oh, sorry, when staff are trying to create a new patron account, they're seeing all the patron categories that we have available, and that's like library staff, admin staff, and then adult, juvenile, and all that stuff. Is there a way for me to suppress the library staff account so that when, like, for example, if we have a circulation library staff patron category, we want that category to only be able to create patron categories and not staff categories, like those accounts, I mean.
So you want to limit the accessibility of the staff account type to certain logged in users.
Right, because right now we're on one-to-one access and Koha single sign-on, so only IT and I are the only ones able to create new accounts. And we're trying to stop the library staff from creating new library accounts because we'd have to go in afterwards and then set the permissions because the permissions aren't going to be
Right.
set automatically.
Yeah, I have some jQuery somewhere, and it's not in my system right now, but I have something somewhere that does that. And it's not that hard to do. What you would need to do, the way that I do it is we have it set so that only NEKLS staff can create those accounts. So one of the things you can do is you can go in to the so are all of these people that create these accounts at one branch?
Yes, so we're technically in the support services branch. It's not a physical place, but
Right.
yeah.
So one of the things you can do, let me share and this is actually the simplest way to do it, is
Nice.
if all of the people that can create those account types are in one location, all you have to do is go to admin and go to categories and go to the category name and just say only NEKLS staff have the ability, just limit it by branch. That might solve your problem right there. So then the only people that can access that patron category in our system are when you're logged in at NEKLS. Nobody else will see that account category in there. If you're logged in at Leavenworth, that category won't even appear.
Oh, okay, I get it. Oh, yeah. So what I was worried about is that if I did that for the library staff, because they move between branches. So
Yeah.
I wonder if I did that. Oh, okay. So if I have it in admin and
But you have to make sure that nobody else can log in to can change
Yeah.
their library to your library.
that's
That would be
fine.
the thing. I advise against hiding things from dropdowns because in multiple times now we've run into issues where if an item is hidden from a dropdown and then you edit that account or that item, the dropdown will reset. So we had this with long overdue lost, where we were suppressing long overdue lost. People didn't select it by accident. And then at some point, when people edited one of those items, it would take the item out of long overdue, out of the lost status, and refund the patron just by
Right.
editing the item, because the drop down was blank when you saved the item, because the user couldn't see that option in the drop down. And I think something similar could happen here, where if you edit a staff member, they lose the staff category, because that drop down will now just be blank, or whatever the default top option is when you save the patron. So you need to be, I have not, I don't, really try hard not to hide things from drop downs for that reason.
Yeah,
But
and I can agree with that too, but that's the situation you've got, that what you've got there is pretty easy.
yeah,
So the only time, if you change it to your administrative branch, then only the people logged into that administrative branch will really see that. So
That's so
and I loved the look of realization on your face. That
yeah,
was really
no,
that was
because
some
when you
good
think about it, it's like that makes like so much sense. That's so perfect. I'm going to test it right now, actually, so I'm gonna mute myself. Thank you.
It does put like a note on the account, which we have sometimes, that throws people. I put a screenshot of it in the chat where it's like, so if you do that where you're the only ones that can set staff, it's gonna have that note on everybody's staff accounts if they're not logged in that says, hey, this is limited to other libraries. So you may want to do something about that too. Or just give people a heads up, at least, since it's just staff accounts, not as big a deal.
Yeah, they know they're not supposed to, I think that's the thing. They know that they're not supposed to create like new staff accounts, but some still do it. We're trying to only give one staff account per person, and then they can have a patron account, but like usually they'll have like a card for like, say, story time, and then circulation, like at cataloging or something like that. They'll have like cards for each of their tasks. We don't want that anymore. We're trying to keep it in one group, basically.
So the way I have our system organized, our consortium organized, is that there is the category, the patron category, that's system login exempt. And I've got the circulation rules set on all of those accounts so that those people can't check things out with that account. And so that they know that account, all it's for is for logging in and using the system. If they need to place requests on something, we have another category that's in-house use. And so like the Baser library has their story time card, and if they need to request things in to get them for story times, it's like a story time account that they use for that whole for that youth department at their library. And so the only thing that our staff use their staff login account for is to log in, and that's it. There are no other things. So they never have to go in and edit them. They never have to do anything with them. When they're created, I give them like I think they're set to expire in 2050. So they don't expire. So there's never a time when they log in and there's anything that says your account's expired or anything like that. And the way that we're doing it with individual logins, the library director will contact me and say, I need this account with these permissions, and I create it. And when that person quits, all the director has to do is go in and delete the account, so that way the person can't access the system anymore. So, and if they want to check books out, that's fine. They just get a regular library card and do all that stuff that way. So,
do you delete the account?
I
Because
have to go and delete the account myself.
we hold on to, we disable the login, but we hold on to accounts for a while, so the circ histories and logs still show, so we can backtrack if something goes wrong or something happened. We just disable the login.
well, now you got me thinking I got to change my practices. Thanks a lot, Ben.
Sorry.
No, I'll figure it. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but one of the things that is since we've started using individual logins, we haven't had a lot of people leave. So, you know, I hadn't considered the idea of what that's going to do to the logs and stuff. So I'll have to think about that now.
It's made it easier to track down who did what change, so it's really nice. The only issue is it's now that we're doing this, it's just tracking down everybody and tracking down each account and making sure that it has the correct permission. So it's, yeah, it's kind of a mess. We're still in the process of setting it all up and making sure that it's all standardized, but I feel like we've got like a couple months to go on this project.
Do you use the batch permissions modifier plugin?
Yeah, that's what I use for, because like I said, like I have my librarians in one batch permissions group. They're the only ones who can catalog. Then I have my circulation staff. Then I have like patrons. Everybody else, coordinators and up, have like limited. They have almost all permissions. Myself and IT are the only ones with like super librarian privileges or permissions or whatever. I don't want to have too many people in the back end. Obviously.
Yeah, I have a bunch of different like patron category, like permission sets. And
Because of that,
I use the batch permission modifier, and so all I got to do is move them into a list. It's a really nice tool.
But yeah,
I
this is
know
perfect.
someone, not us because we don't use that, but someone mentioned like they have a list where whenever someone leaves, they move them into like a former staff list for the batch patron modifier. So like it strips their permissions, but if they come back, you can bring them back, like move them back into the other list. So that might be like a good way to create a holding area of
Yeah, that's
pending
actually a
deletion
pretty
stuff.
good idea.
That's a good idea because right now it's a two-step process. We have to take them out of the list and then disable their permissions. But if you had a no permissions user that you were using,
Ooh, a lot more to. This probably is going to take more than a couple of months then. Now that I'm thinking about it, but this will help a lot because the biggest complaint is with all the new patron categories, with like all the new staff patron categories, they've had to like go down the list because it's not it. They want to be able to just select the patron accounts rather than look at all the library staff accounts, and it's just. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll just ask at the next either sysad or web dev meeting. So I will do that right now. Thank you so much.
There's a link to my document on what the different account types we use are. So I have that handy because I'm adding a section soon about our Aspen Discovery account types. So
Z staff, that's so smart. I think I might just do that because it takes it. Oh, yes. Because it's alphabetical. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm looking at your stuff. And I was like,
yeah, that was to organize the way that those are structured to make it yeah.
the use of the letter Z seems it seems disproportionately weighted toward moving things to the bottom of lists, and I feel kind of sorry for that letter.
Yeah.
We did the same thing here for our hold shelf. We've got a certain patron class that are outreach people who take things off site. And so like all of their initials are now set to ZZZ, whatever the site is, so they can go last on the hold shelf. And I'm like, man, come on, Zed. I feel like you can be doing more.
I actually shared the wrong link. That's the link I meant to share. So that's, yeah, those are my lists. And then the next one is actually what the permissions are for each of those. And I think I've added some since I did that document. So that document was in my open on the page because that's one of the ones I need to update. So
well, I'm going to use both if that's okay.
training a new person is a good way to highlight all the documentation changes you need to make, because every time I go to show her something, it's like, well, I'll show you this document and this covers everything except it's out of date. So
I've got this spreadsheet if that's helpful too. I hate permissions. That's all.
Yeah, I can't wait for protected patron to be fixed, that bug for only super librarians should be able to work on or use that protected patron little option. Otherwise, everybody else just puts it to yes, and then they can mess with my SIP connections, and I don't want that.
Yeah, Christopher and I did a video on how to use some jQuery to prevent people from modifying those. So,
You gave me the jQuery to suppress it, so
oh,
thank
okay,
you for
yeah.
that.
Yeah, in 2411, that's standard. We dug that bug up at the dev meeting. Let me see if I can find it. They changed it so that only super librarians will see that setting.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Any other questions or curiosity?
Just a comment. I love your permissions defaults. Perfect.
Yeah, so like that was a one step in my big permissions lockdown thingy that I still haven't posted to the wiki, but I've have it so that all that stuff's programmed into the permissions page. So like if we don't use a permission, nobody can touch it at all. But it's I got derailed by other stuff, so someday I'll add that to the wiki. But it's handy to have all the permissions in a list like that because those are also the IDs for the checkboxes, the things on the page. So then I can just anytime I add one, I can just add it to the concatenate it onto my array in the jQuery to add the emoji where it needs to be.
Oh,
This is
that
all
reminds me.
freaking awesome.
So I rewatched Jason. Sorry, am I interrupting?
No, please go ahead.
Topic. So I rewatched your presentation from koha-US last year, and I made a pretty okay looking version of the same thing in our test instance. But what I was wondering is how do you get the emojis to pop up in either the template? How can you choose them?
Oh, it's a keyboard command if you're using a Windows computer. So
Yeah.
it's Windows and then the period key will
So
open up the
window and then
emoji keyboard.
Window and then the period. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, window and then period, and that should do that. I'm gonna write that down. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been more useful than I ever realized because I communicate with emojis in an unprofessional manner all the time, I guess. I don't know.
Cool. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Thanks. So now my kind of lumpy looking poster that I made will also have emojis.
Perfect.
Is anyone
right.
here? Oh, sorry.
go ahead. No.
Speaking of presenting at Koha-US, has anyone submitted proposals for conference?
I finally submitted one at the last minute about it's completely general and unplanned, but I put my name out there so that I would be available, I guess, to present.
I proposed redoing my very basic jQuery workshop for new people And I complained in my proposal suggestion that we got away from doing workshops in the last 2 or 3 years, and it'd be nice to have some more of those. And I don't know if it's been accepted or not yet. I did, at the request of the South Dakota State Librarian last year, when I saw him at the MPLA conference in Salt Lake, I did submit a proposal to talk about Koha at the MPLA conference this year, which is going to be in North Dakota at Grand Forks in October. So will I see you there, Ben?
I wasn't planning on it, but I can come up.
Yeah.
If people are going to be there, I'd be happy to.
I don't know if anybody else will be there, but I have a presentation. So George Seaman is the South Dakota state librarian, and he talked at MPLA. He was considering the idea of maybe trying to put together a South Dakota library, Koha library consortium like they have in Wyoming, based on Koha. And he asked if maybe somebody could do a talk at next year's MPLA conference. And then, of course, in January, they essentially told the South Dakota State Library they were defunding them, the South Dakota legislature. And so I haven't I told George I was going to submit a proposal, but I haven't really had any communication with them since then, because it's been just a big turmoil there, I guess, with, they were going to cut funding for the South Dakota State Library, and then they redid some of it. And so I'm not sure what's going on there in South Dakota anymore.
We have a South Dakota person in the Slack, Rapid City.
Juliet.
Yeah, Juliet.
Yeah.
So
maybe she's got the skinny. I don't.
Yeah, I've talked to her a couple of times, but I will be there in Grand Forks in October. So
maybe I'll come up. I'm not coming to the Koha-US conference is right up against my daughter's birthday, so I'm not doing that. But I'd come up to Grand Forks for a day. It's an easy drive. Yeah.
Robin at NEKLS is the president of MPLA this year, so that's why. So we're driving up from Lawrence.
Okay, so you're coming through Fargo then too?
I guess we probably are. Yeah, maybe we can just drop by and say hi. I don't know. Robin's got a lot to do at since she's the president of MPLA, she's got a lot going on. So
yeah, I know we have a few people going because it's so close, and it's the tri-conference too. So it's a big. I think it's going to be a big conference relative to what we would normally get. So I think we're trying to send several people, but I could just come up for a day.
As it gets closer, I left it really nebulous. As it gets closer, maybe when I start to think about what I'll talk about, I'll see if you're coming up. Maybe we can
Absolutely.
do something together. Just it was just going to be really general about this is what Koha is and this is how we use it, to kind of be an introduction for people that don't know much about it. So
yeah, even like a consortium, non-consortium perspective would be.
Yeah.
I can't make KohaCon in person, but I'm hoping to go online. I would be very interested in your jQuery presentation, because that would be dope.
Yeah, we did it. I did it. The first time I did it was online during the pandemic, I think it was. And we just called it very basic jQuery. And it was like in 2000. And I like to do it more as a workshop with a small group of people saying, okay, this is how, this is what jQuery is. This is how, and I usually start with, this is how you hide like an element on the page, and go from there. So
That is exactly what I want. There's so many things I want to hide. Not for their own good, We're very curious people, librarians.
Also surprisingly easy to click things by accident.
Yes.
And if they don't belong there, then there's just no reason to show it.
Yeah. You have people with like a lot of initiative. They're great and they get a lot of work done, but sometimes they they think that there's a mistake with like an account, but it was actually there on purpose. And they think, oh, I'll just delete this account. And it turned out to be a SIP connection. And yeah, so we had Bywater fix another one. And like, I understand it might be like an outlier, but we still would like to avoid that in the future.
Well, and that's a question for Jason because the devs group has been working on it. How is the work going on the graphical interface for SIP connections in Koha coming?
I just signed
think
off on it.
Yeah, Charlie signed off on it. I think last time I looked though, it was back in failed QA again. There's concern about how much it exposes. So like there's a tab for listeners and a tab for something else. And like you and me and no one else really needs access to that. So I think they're still sort of hashing over that part of it. I can show you, I think. Give me a minute.
But it's awesome. Just FYI, just playing with it was so cool.
I'm probably gonna have to reset everything, but so it adds this to the admin page, the SIP2 self-service. Yeah, it's broken. But that's where it's at. I think I have to do like a restart all. Nope. I'm really still really bad at this Koha baby dev stuff. Look at my note. Oh, it's because I'm in the wrong thingy? No. All right. I'm gonna stop my share while I think about this for a second.
The link I just added to the chat is what Andrew gave me when we were testing out the SIP stuff. So
So you have to be in the shell to do cool stuff like that. Just as an educational point. This will take a second. We can watch the screen take 5. It might be done. So then let's see if that did anything. 404.
Well, I don't have much pull with it. I mean, they tell me, but I don't really have. So I heard today that they're gonna use it.
Oh, I did a restart instead of a reset. That's why it was so fast. That's gonna take a minute. But since I'm failing, the listeners and the server params and stuff are the things I think there are concerns about. Institutions shows like actual, you can set up institutions and then those are leveraged in the accounts. So this is the exciting thing anyways, where this is where all the account information is shown and it's got these handy little question marks at the end of every field because no one understands SIP. So it's nice that those are there to sort of explain what every field is going to do. And it does have the one I was excited about. You can just flip the show patron home library in the AF field flag right there when you're setting up the account yourself. When you do, like when we're testing it, there's some like stuff already set up there in the config file in the background, and it ports all that stuff over. So all our existing accounts should show up in the interface when it does get pushed finally. But that's kind of the gist of it. Like, this stuff I don't understand, and we probably don't need access to. Syspref overrides, I think, can be useful. So like, if you want to override the fine limit or something for a specific SIP connection, you could do that here. And then again, the server params are like things that we don't need access to really.
Just having the ability to manage the accounts better, I think, is a huge step in making it simpler.
Yeah, just like having visibility is going to be great.
Yeah, I regularly, I mean, every month I audit all our staff accounts because just to make sure that nobody got forgotten and can still log in. But like to do SIP accounts, I have to contact somebody. Like,
Tim?
tell me your SIP accounts.
She wants you back.
Okay, so this is looking better. So this copied all the institutions and accounts from that demo file, so you can see what one looks like when it's set up at an institution. So, and then you can go in and edit them and all that jazz. And it's using Vue, so it's like super speedy fast. And I don't understand what all of this stuff does either, but like you can even do some templating stuff down there for different fields. So like if it's not pulling in what the vendor needs, we may be able to do that ourselves instead of having Bywater dig into it for us. So I'm excited.
Yeah, even if the listeners and that other stuff isn't part of the final version, just have just that what you showed with the accounts is a huge improvement over now. You know, opening a ticket with Bywater and saying, send me, you know, I need this information about this SIP account. You know, this is just a huge difference. So.
I like the use of the variety of dog emojis you use, Kristi. It's nice.
Yeah, now that I know where to find them.
Well, I got another a meeting in like 1 minute, so I'm gonna head out. It's good seeing everybody, and I'll talk to you all later.
Yep.
Thank you so much. This is so helpful.
Bye.
Thanks everybody for coming. We'll do this again next month.
Yep.
See ya.